Catherine from Altering and Physio Clinic. This is a video to go through some exercises that will help you return to golf if you've had a break for a little while, but also just help to continue to improve your game. So, first exercise we'll do is an exercise called saw. So it's in sitting. You're going to take your feet just beyond hip distance apart and let your legs lengthen. Now if this feels a little tight through the back of the legs, what you could do is to sit either onto your folded towel or cushion, and that can take a little bit of pressure off the legs. This exercise is helping to improve our trunk rotation, but also improve the mobility into our hips, which is really important for that swing. So we're stretching the arms out wide, reaching through the fingertips, sitting tall and feeling a lift into your lower tummy. Breath in, and as you breathe out, we're going to rotate one way, turning with your chin in line with your breastbone as far as you can, and then we come slightly forwards as if you're trying to reach your hand to that opposite foot. Don't worry if you're nowhere near, you just go as far as you comfortably can to a stretch, and then we'll come back to the centre. And then we repeat the same thing over to the opposite side. So as you breathe out, we're rotating round, and then we're folding at the hips, trying to reach that hand towards that opposite foot. And it might be that you can get there, and then we'll come back to the centre. Now, really importantly, you're moving with the out breath, feeling that stretch, pause for your in breath, and then breathing out as we come back to the centre. So we're getting a little bit of a hold there. Keep the lower back nice and long. So the fold, if you are able to come forward, comes from your hips and not through the spine. So you don't want to feel yourself going like this. If you're coming forwards, it's coming from the hip there. And you can just alternate that side to side, nice and gently, and the hope is you'll be able to get a little bit more range each time. Brilliant. Maybe do about 5 of those each way, and then we can continue to work into our rotation by coming down onto our mats. Now I'm going to use one of my bands, a light resistance band for this one, and we're going to do our arm openings. So onto your side. If you've just got the one head support, maybe fold it up a little bit more and bring your head to the front of the towel, letting that bottom arm come away. Our feet, knees and hips are stacked. We're going to keep the top hip over that bottom hip, push the top waist away and lift that lower waist there. I'm using the band because it will help to give me that little bit more feedback into my shoulder, also a little bit more strength work with my your rotation, which again can be really, really good for that swing component of your golf. So band between your hands, a little bit of give there. We're going to take a breath in, and as you breathe out, we're stretching the band, taking that hand up and over, rotating as far as you can with your upper body to feel a stretch, but only as far as you can with your hands stacked over the shoulder. Breath in, and then as you breathe out, release that tension, but with control to come back to that start position. And again, breath in, and with that out breath we start to move, taking the tension of the band, feeling that shoulder blade sliding, gliding towards the centre of the spine as we come into that rotation. Pause, and then smoothly release, and allow that hand to come back down and back to that start position. And we can keep that going. If you want a little bit more resistance, you can tighten the band up. Make sure that your chin stays in line with your breastbone. So we're not just rotating at the neck, we're rotating primarily with that upper part of the back there, keeping the hips stacked. Use the in-breath once you've gone as far as you can to get a little extra stretch through the ribs. And gently release. Now, it'd be nice to work up to around 10 of these if you can, and then change sides and repeat that on the opposite side as well there. Okay. I'm going to place that down to one side now, and we're just going to go into a little bit more hip work. So important for that stance position with our golf, we want to have good control of those muscles that support across the back of the pelvis and our lower back there. So we're going to do some little leg circles. If you lengthen the bottom arm out, as long as that's comfortable for your neck and shoulder, we're staying inside lying, and we're going to
have the hips stacked as they were before. Keep the bottom leg folded, but we'll straighten that top leg out. So I've got a really nice long line from foot, knee, hip and up to your shoulder there. We're going to flex that foot. Then imagine that there's a pencil attached to that heel and we're doing small circles backwards. So really squeezing into the glutes there as we do that small rotation just from the ball and socket joint of the hip. So if you imagine that cup of water here, we don't want that cup of water to spill. If we can, you can keep those movements nice and smooth and small, working up maybe to about 20. So I'm going to do another 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. Brilliant. Then we'll fold that knee, bring that foot back in and let those feet come to rest down. We're continuing with a little bit of rotation control and some glutes work by doing our clam. Now I've got my stronger resistance band and I'm going to use that today. You don't have to do the exercise with the resistance band around the thighs, that's fine. If you haven't got one, don't worry. But it does, again, give us that little bit more feedback into those muscles at the back of the pelvis. Make sure that we don't go too far into any rotation with the back, and just gives us that little bit more pressure to work into. So the band, if you're using it, is tied around the thighs. We've got feet, knees and hips stacked, just as we did before. Feet in line with your hips, hips in line with your shoulder there. And if you do that little sneaky look of seeing the hips, see the feet, place those feet down. We'll push that top waist away just as we did. And then as you next breathe out, we're peeling that top knee up into the resistance of the band. And then smoothly and slowly down. And again, we're pressing up into that resistance, feeling that tightening into the back of the hip. And then smoothly releasing. Keep that lower tummy lifted so that we're staying nice and steady. We're not rocking back at all. And we're controlling that rotation just from the ball and sockets of the hip there, working into the back of the pelvis. Slow and smooth, pressing up and controlling that release. So although the band wants to pull that knee back down, let's make sure that it doesn't just ping back down, that we do release that slowly to allow the knee to come back to rest onto that bottom leg. Again, if we work up to around 10, stop before if you need to. If it's easy, you could always add a couple extra on to the end. I'll do a last 3, 2, and last 1. And then turning over and repeat that on the opposite side. I'm going to go over onto my back now and I'm going to keep the band around my legs because we're going to go into some shoulder bridge. So, best not to have anything in behind the back of your head and neck so your neck can be nice and long unless you feel you do need a little bit of support there. But we don't want to feel any pressure into the back of the neck with your shoulder bridge. So, nodding your chin to lengthen through the crown of the head and letting your shoulder blades relax down. I'm going to keep my band around my thighs to again just increase that work with the outer hips a little bit more. Starting with the feet together, we'll turn toes out and bring your heels in line. Once we've found that hip distance apart, stretching the band, pulling the knees apart into the resistance there to come to hip distance in line with the feet. Then we're going to centre, tuck your tailbone under, push your knees away, peel up into that shoulder bridge position. Hold that lift, feel the back of the hips working, squeezing those sit bones together. We'll pause and then smoothly and slowly coming back down and release. And again, squeeze those sit bones in, tuck the tailbone under, push those knees away, peel up, keep that resistance equal into the band. Breath in, and then as you breathe out, we'll smoothly and slowly lower the spine down and come to stop in that neutral position. Keep that going nice and smoothly there with control. Feel the back of the hips working. Now, of course, when we're playing golf, we've not just got movement around the legs or the the hips as we move, but we've also got that work into the upper body as well. So the shoulder bridge is a nice exercise where we could add in some arms here. If you have your arms down by your sides, as we come up into our shoulder bridge, we're floating those arms up and overhead as far as you can comfortably. No pain should be into the back of the neck at all. Then separate those hands, scoop the arms round as you slowly return yourself back down to the mat. And we'll do that again. So we're tucking the tailbone under, we're going up into that lift. Feel that work through the back of the shoulders, and then separating those arms, circling the hands round, coming back down to the mat to pause. And again, we'll do another one here, tucking under, pushing those arms away, come up into that lift, and then control smoothly coming back and down. Changing that just slightly, take your arms overhead while you're down to the mat, and then we're going to reverse. So you're going to come down with your arms all the way down to the mat as you come up into your shoulder bridge. Pause, and then we'll go the opposite way. So the arms float up as you come back down, and we end up in that little bit of a stretch position, coming down and along underneath the arms. Again, will really help us to get as much flexibility as possible through that trunk, through that upper body. As we come up, the hands come down, and then as we return down, those arms are floating up and overhead. Don't worry if your arms aren't going all the way down to the mat there. If you're a little tight, you might find that your arms are actually here at this point, particularly as you start to tuck under. So don't push into pain, feel a stretch, and just work as far as you can do comfortably. I'll make this my last one. So again, repetitions of around 10 is a really nice place to start with, but if you need to stop before, that's fine, or you could always add an extra couple onto the end. Now, I'm going to put my quick release cord on this, pop this to one side, bring my head support back in, and we're just going to do that lovely rotation hip twist stretch. So, if you lengthen your arms out by your sides, maybe turn your palms up towards the ceiling, so you're around 90 degrees from your body with the shoulders there. Feet and knees zip together and your heels drawn as close towards your tailbone as you can. We'll take a breath in, and as you breathe out, let your knees go over to one side, your feet and your hips may peel away, but those shoulder blades must stay anchored down into the mat. Turn with the head and neck to look the opposite way. Breath in, and as you breathe out, peel the spine down, draw the knees back to the centre, head and neck back to that start position. Over to the opposite, let those knees go over, turn, looking the opposite way, feel that stretch all the way through the spine, and then use those muscles underneath your ribs, controlling that movement to bring the knees back to the centre. Continue on again, feel that lovely stretch. It mobilises the joints, stretches those muscles, and we're also as well using those muscles that run down across your tummy that little bit more as we control the movement to let the knees come back to that start position. Again, don't force the movement, but hopefully as you repeat, you might find that you're able to go further and further with that movement. We can make it a little bit more of a strengthening exercise by bringing the arms into a slightly different position. So for the last couple, if you have your hands up towards the ceiling while your knees are into that mid position, then, as you let your knees go over to one side, allow your arms to open as you turn to look the opposite way. Then, use those tummy muscles, and you'll feel you have to use them a little bit more strongly to peel the knees back to the centre, and you float your arms up and away again. Then repeat to that opposite side, the arms open, the knees go the opposite way, but then we're taking away that control that we're given, that little bit more, that balance that we're given by having those arms rested down. So we've got to work through those abdominal muscles that little bit more to get that rotation movement for us. This is going to be my last one. And then we'll come back into the centre and let your arms rest down. Now, of course though, golf is played in standing. So our very last exercise is going to be one up and in standing. A lot of the exercises have been linked with rotation and control of that rotation, and that's exactly what the last one is. It's effectively that clam exercise but in a standing position. So if you start with your feet together, turn toes out, bring your heels in line, you're going to find your neutral in standing with the eyes of the pelvis facing forwards, lift into your lower tummy. Option one, you stay at your hip distance and you fold one knee. The movement then is from the hip as we turn that knee out and back to the centre. So it's rotation from the hip as it was before, but we're in standing now, so we're loaded. Everything else should be nice and still. Okay? This, with the feet apart, is your most stable position. If this feels easy and we want a little bit more challenge with our balance, bring your feet together, maybe tucking the toe onto the opposite foot. And then we continue with the rotation. Trying not to allow, as I did then, your foot to come down. Okay. And try not to look out too much on that standing leg. If this is easy, let's see if I can demonstrate this. Float that foot up and away. So now we've got no support through that toe. And we're still working into rotation from that hip, keeping the shoulders and hips facing forwards and front. Do as many of these as you can do with control. 5 is probably enough. Well done. And then obviously we would repeat that over and onto the opposite side. So don't worry which level of those you work to. But again, it's a lovely way of improving that balance, increasing that control, particularly into those movements which are needed for your golf. Hope that's helped.